We are interviewing Steve Ranson, our senior minister today. It's an honor for me to get to know about this man, so stay tuned for some really neat information. And we'll start at the beginning of your life. When is your birthday?
That's a good, easy question to answer. September the 28th, 1954. Just
So
had it. Just did.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. And I love that because for 27 days, Kim and I are the same age. Whatever that might mean.
That's funny, Jeff and I did that too.
Yeah.
Not for 27.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any neat history behind the name Stephen?
You know, there is my middle name, Watson, Stephen Watson Ranson, 666. I don't know really what that's all about, but that was my dad and my grandfather's middle name as well. Stephen, spelled Stevan. The only other Stephen that I know is my son, Stevan. Is it Stefan, Stephen, Steve?
That's cool. Very cool. Okay, so you had siblings.
Two older brothers.
Yeah.
Older brothers, or brother Rick, who's 4 years older, brother Jeff, the middle one, 2 years older. I'm the baby. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, well, that's good. In your dealings and growing up with your siblings, are there any funny, crazy, memorable stories?
You know, we were kind of the all-American family. Dad carried the lunch bucket to work for 35 years. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. We just kind of grew up in a nice, I love you, hate you, going to kill you, don't, all that kind of stuff. But it was all good. I really don't have, a lot of memories that stand out, other than they would be healthy ones. Good family life. A lot of blessings there.
No cat down the laundry chute.
My mom didn't like cats, or probably.
So on birthdays and at Christmas time, can you remember like your favorite gift that you ever got that was just so exciting?
A couple of them. About age 9 or 10, I got a red Schwinn bicycle. And that was really cool, but the coolest part, on this red seat, it had a white S, which of course I thought stood for Steve. And I thought, how neat. My parents got me a bicycle and it's got my initial on the seat. I didn't think about that it was a Schwinn bicycle, but it was a great moment, and I've always chosen to remember that.
Yeah. How old were you when you realized that was Schwinn?
Oh, it was a little later. I guess I was maybe 9 or 10 at the time, and I'm sure that the news broke to me somewhere down the line, and it kind of probably was a sad moment, but I chose to make it a happy one.
Okay, so by the same token, did you have any gifts that you wish you hadn't have gotten?
I don't really remember too many of those crazy things. Growing up as a kid, nobody wants socks and underwear, but everybody needs them, and we got them. And what was so crazy, I don't know if this is maybe the same thing you're asking, but for Christmas time, even though Santa Claus was sort of real, sort of not real, but Santa Claus always had 3 stacks under the tree, with an S on this stack for Steve, a J for Jeff, an R for Rick. And I'm thinking, boy, that Santa Claus is so well organized. And Santa Claus would get us all the same stuff. So if I wanted to know what was in this package, I better open up this one before Rick and Jeff opened up theirs, because it was the same. It was the same thing exactly. I thought Santa Claus is quite the man. So, Christmas, birthday gifts, they were a big deal, but, you just enjoy them as a child, and still do.
Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming that you went to church and to Sunday school as a young man. I think I've heard some tales. Do you remember a Bible story that really stood out to you, that you loved it when that was what the teacher was going to tell you?
Yeah, I do. I loved that song, Only a Boy Named David, and so we learned about David, and that was good. He was probably my favorite. Although later then, it probably was Joseph, because such a man of integrity. But probably my very favorite, and he wasn't like this Bible character, but I love the story of Balaam's donkey just talking. I thought that was the greatest thing. And then when I met Fred Glover, I'm thinking, God, you are still doing the same thing today. So it's just a funny thing to me. And I'm teasing about that. Not really teasing about that, but as a kid, the story about Balaam's donkey talking, it just was the craziest thing. And I just, God could do anything. So it's good. It's good.
That's good. Okay. So at what age did you first know that you were going to grow up to be a minister?
This will surprise people. I didn't know that till probably sophomore year in college.
Oh.
Grew up in a good Christian home. Mom and dad, very faithful. Went to church Sunday. It's just kind of your typical church-going family. And probably like a lot of people, I lived off of my parents' faith and my older brother's faith to a large degree for a while. I remember back in junior high and high school when you did the career notebooks. I never did it on being a pastor or minister. That just really wasn't a possibility, at least I didn't think at the time. But about my sophomore year in college, I was at a Christian university at the time, Christian college then, university now. And then the lights began to come on. I can see where God had been shaping me and kind of leading me down a road. But it wasn't until probably I'm 20 years old at this point that I'm thinking, God has a call on my life. Even at that point, I wasn't exactly sure what it was. But again, it wasn't one of those things, I'm in the second grade, I'm going to be a fireman when I grow up. I'm going to be a nurse when I grow up. No, it wasn't till much later. But it's been confirmed many, many times since then.
So how did God confirm it? Maybe that first way, or maybe how did he continue to confirm that
with
you?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a mysterious thing on the one hand, how God leads and calls people. There's a direct and an indirect way for that. Most often we don't realize that until we look back and to see that God has been guiding and shaping. And part of that's personality. Part of that is education. Part of that is experience. Part of that is meeting that right person at the right time, be it in marriage or a church or vocation or whatever it may be. But in my case, it was simply a matter of, again, now I'm married, been married a year or two, been married 1 year. And, I know graduation's coming in a couple of years. I need to do something, which is a little bit of a motivation, honestly. But even prior to that, it's like this wrestling that you feel, this maybe not an emptiness, but this fact that you've maybe not quite hit your sweet spot in life. And when you realize, and again, I was greatly blessed to be in a college environment, a Christian college environment, and to have some good people, confidants to talk with, and some good mentors, to begin to look at what is God calling and what is a Christian worldview. And you're here to more than just get a job, to retire, to die. There's got to be something more. And just kind of putting those things together, realizing what the needs are, realizing what my abilities are, realizing what God has gifted me at, realizing the things that I enjoy doing. It's kind of like, and I never really thought about it quite like this before, but it's kind of like walking down a hallway, and maybe there's 10 or 12 or 15 doors, and you just kind of move the doorknob a little bit, and that door seems to open, and that fits, and this one doesn't. But you open one, and there's maybe another hallway, and it's a little more specific, and now the light's on a little bit more, and then there's another one, and it's a little bit more. And I'm not saying it's a cosmic crossword puzzle or something that God is doing, but it's that the light comes on gradually till you realize God has been leading me all along.
And it just hit you your sophomore year, though. You really was like, okay.
Yes, exactly, Sanille. And even though, a lot of life has come and gone since then, I can look back and say that it has been over and over and over confirmed to me the vocational choice that I have chosen, that God has allowed me to pursue.
Somewhere along the way, and you said you were already married a year by your sophomore year of high school. Well, how did you meet them?
Sophomore year in college.
In college,
yes.
Sorry, yeah.
And boy, Sanille, what a great, and everybody has a story. Every life has a story. I remember a guy saying one time years ago, and I've always picked up on this, that big doors swing on little hinges. and there were just little hinges. I graduated from high school in 1972, 17 years old. And then later that summer, I'm in a singing group at this point, a group that I traveled with for a number of years. And we went to Flora, Illinois, my wife's hometown. Certainly, I didn't know it was my wife's hometown at that point. I didn't know her. But I met her that summer. She was 16. I was 17. She was to be a senior in high school. I'm getting ready to go to my freshman year in college. And we met and weren't particularly, drawn in each other's circles at that point. But over the course of time, it's interesting. The little town where she lived, her parents still lived there, had a recording studio, a Crusade recording studio. And back in the show business days, we recorded a number of albums in all places in Flora, Illinois. And so we would go back there and saw her and her family and just kind of developed a rapport and relationship with them. And then she came to Kentucky Christian College a year later. She was 17 now. I'm 18. We will be married at age 18 and 19 because we're going to be getting married in August following that. So her freshman year, now my sophomore year, we meet. We're already friends and good friends, but nothing really beyond that. And just in the course of time, as everybody would say, the rest is history. I guess it really is, because we met, had met, but started dating, fell in love, and then before my junior year, were married, and that's been 38 years ago and 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then do you move into student housing? Is that how that works when you're married in college?
Well, it is, and it was pretty humble student housing. They had some married student housing, but it was really some old dilapidated mobile homes. Our first one was, I don't remember how small it was. It was tiny, maybe a little bit bigger than this, but small, just small. But it was okay. You didn't mind. You're together, and you don't know any better other than everything's good, and it was. But it was really good. And at that point, I'm in a singing group, gone every weekend, although she's traveling a good bit of that time with me now. At that time, if you were married to a full-time student, spouses could attend college for free. So I went to college on a ministry scholarship all 5 years, with 2 degrees in 5 years, free. And she went for 3 of her 4 years free at a scholarship because we had free tuition. So it worked out pretty good. So yes, we're living in a small mobile home in the married student housing section, which is a tiny little section of it was a non-traditional student kind of thing, but it was good. And then we graduated later on, and then continued full time in ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you met her when she was in Florida. She came and she was in your university, and when did you know? Well, you probably thought she was lovely the very first time you saw her. When did you know that she was?
I did, and it's such a progressive kind of thing. You just kind of, again, you look back and you realize that, boy, God is just so faithful. And well, you do know Sanille in the process of time, but I can remember after our first date, maybe our second date, and on a small college campus, especially a Christian college, perhaps, maybe more than others, I don't know. But anytime a guy and gal were sitting beside each other or holding hands, well, they were practically married. I mean, that was just in the wind. You just had this expectancy. Well, look, they're an item, they're a couple, and so we were together a little while, and I remember asking her out for a date. But again, our dates were pretty humble, and it was probably through the week we maybe snuck away and got a hamburger or something, because every weekend I'm traveling. Every summer I'm gone, and I love what I do, but we don't have much chance to spend just those times we'd like to spend together. Discretionary time when you're studying and then going. It just wasn't a lot to it. But I do remember a couple of dates that we had. And then I remember a card that she sent me. Oh, I had a great time. And You're a kind man, or whatever. Your friend Kim, and that just about killed me. Your friend. I thought maybe a little more, maybe a little more than your friend. I got lots of friends. Come on, give me something, And it's so funny that now, and I immediately, like the next day in chapel or the next day, it's like, okay, am I going to see you in the hallway or in the lunchroom? Are you like sitting on the other table where you used to sit right here? Are we avoiding each other? Like, was that a sign? Was that a signal? Are you telling me something here? And I remember after, I don't remember how it was, like cornering her, or I don't remember really when the communication took place. Maybe I ran into her or whatever. And I had that read completely wrong. She was saying something she was saying, you're a really, really neat friend. She wasn't saying, and let's end it there, but she was saying, I like you. I thought that was pretty good. At the time, I did not think that was very good.
Yeah, it sounds like a rush off.
No, I tell you, your friend. What? But that was funny. That was funny. We talked a lot about that.
I'm sorry. How did you end up proposing to her?
Well, I can remember I lived about an hour away from the campus. And I remember taking her home to meet my parents. And that's kind of always a sign, And even though we weren't officially engaged, or we hadn't really talked about it that much, I remember I was driving, and she took a little nap, and I remember waking up, and I just remember looking over her, just saying, "Well, she's so pretty." And I remember saying something like, "I'm gonna marry you one of these days." I know that probably doesn't sound very romantic, and it wasn't like this candlelight anything. And she just kind of lit up, and we kind of talked a little bit, and that was kind of a proposal. Although later, I certainly did ask her dad, and I asked my parents too, as far as that was concerned. Not that I'm their little boy, but I just appreciated their authority, and I appreciated their advice in my life. But anyway, I asked her dad, and then I asked her formally, and of course she said yes, and that was a happy day.
Yeah.
Your friend.
Yeah. So you had
your friend.
You conducted a lot of marriage ceremonies, and you know that things can go wrong, but they can be hysterical. They can be very memorable. Did you have any little thing like that in your marriage ceremony?
What I remember, St. Albans, West Virginia, and Flora, Illinois are maybe 450 miles apart, maybe every bit of that. And back in that day, it was a little bit, perhaps even more than today, traditional, bride side, groom side. And we still do that some, but that was pretty pronounced in that era. And so I remember very clearly at our wedding, First Christian Church, Flora, Illinois, bride side, wall to wall, pew to pew, front to back, almost standing room only. Groom side, 1, 2, 3. It could be kind of sad, but it was just kind of funny to me. And I didn't think like, well, where's all my my friends? We're 450 miles apart. And so that was very, very obvious. Bride, this, coalition of whatever is going on, and groom side, how you doing, Bob? Good to see you. Dad, look good. It's about that. But then the funniest thing, and I don't remember if Kim knew, I just don't recall if Kim knew that I was going to sing to her in the ceremony, but I did. And so right before we go out, we're coming out the back, and we're going to be in place. And my brother Rick, who was in the quartet with me, said, Hey Steve, do you ever think about changing the words of that song? No, can't say that I've ever thought about changing the word. And again, everything's by memory. I don't have any cue cards in front of me. This is all, spinning. And, and I'm nervous anyway. And I'm going to be singing this song. And again, for the life of me, I don't remember sitting here. If Kim knew that I was going to be singing to her, she may not have. So that would have perhaps made me a little more nervous to hope my friend likes the surprise here. And so he said, yeah, I think you ought to change that line. to whatever the line was. To Kim, my love, I give to thee. Walk hand in hand. Yeah, I think I could do that. And so I remember walking out, thinking about that the whole time. You know, the preacher could have said anything. Do you, Steve, take you? Yes, yes, yeah. I did not be listening to him. I'm thinking, I got to remember this line. 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 And I did. I said my line just right. I don't know if Kim really knew that I'd changed it. I suppose she did, since I mentioned her name in the song. Obviously, it wasn't the song written for her. I mean, that particular one wasn't. But that is something else that I remember, and I'll never, ever forget that. And I've still got that on a little cassette tape. This is long before the DVD, any of that kind of stuff. And I listen to my squeaky voice, "Hi, Steve, take you, Kim," and her beautiful voice affirming that back to me, and then me singing this song to her. And so, yeah, good times, good stuff, great memories.
These days, you probably still make time to date and to spend time together. What do you typically do together? What are some of your favorites?
Well, one of the things that we've been able to do for the last 2 years, it's a date night, but something that has become a real love of mine and of Kim's. In fact, I think it's surprising to Kim that she would say that Steve enjoys this more than she does. Every Monday, most Monday nights, we go to ballroom dancing lessons, and we just really love that. I guess I'm saying I'm a cheap date because they're not very expensive, and so we get to spend some time together. And then we typically go to Fazoli's because I've got a coupon there, or to McDonald's, drinks 99 cents. So that's fun. That's just fun to do. That's just fun to spend at least one evening together. And we're often fortunate if we get to spend one interrupted evening. So that's a good thing. But probably what you would think of more in the routine of things that we like to do. We do like to travel. And cruising is something that we very much enjoy. And going to races, half marathons and marathons. And so we get to see a lot of the country and a lot of different places, and a lot of good times. Like to vacation together with our family, and that always presents itself to a lot of interesting things. Mm-hmm. So we kind of do a lot of that as we have opportunity.
So what is your favorite vacation? Maybe one that you've already taken in the past, or one that you are excitedly waiting for someday?
Well, probably my very favorite vacation would be to travel somewhere and run a marathon on a Saturday afternoon, and then to get cleaned up, and then to get cleaned up, and then get on the cruise ship and eat my weight in the buffet line. That would probably be a favorite vacation. Yeah.
So, like, when you go, besides Fazoli's and McDonald's, what are some other restaurants that like when you're getting dressed up and spiffy, what's something you would do?
Well, kind of mid-range, we enjoy Texas Roadhouse, Applebee's, those kind of places. I really like Chinese food, probably more than Kim does. But for the very first time, we've never been, but we have, thank you to our Sunday school class, we have a gift card for Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Yeah, because we don't just go there.
No, we don't. We have never been there, but looking forward to that. We're not really fancy kind of people, but we enjoy when we have an opportunity to do something nice. And it's nice because it's the exception, it's a celebration, and you really make the most of it. And we really try to do that.
Right. Let's see. So when you knew you were going to be a minister, God revealed that to you over time. When did you know it was going to be Hazelwood Christian Church, and how did that happen?
Well, and again, you can just look back. We were in college. There was a man and his wife, Becky and Dave Thomas, that were 1 or 2 years ahead of us. So when we graduate now, this is 1976 and then 1977. So I graduate both years, but we leave the campus in 1977, been traveling for 5 years, so now 2 more years, so for a total of 7. And by this time, we have our oldest, Chad, who's months old. In fact, he was 7 months old when we moved here back in 1979. And life on the road is fun. It's exciting. It kind of sounds glamorous, but it's just tough. It's just really tough. Always on the go. And but besides that, I'll just say that we were looking for a place to settle down. But by this time, God had almost blinded us with the light. It was pretty clear that there was a call to do something vocationally beyond the singing ministry, which we enjoyed. I would not have thought that would have been in pulpit ministry, because people skills, humbly, I knew that I'd be okay to meet people. I love things like this. I don't get nervous about it all. But preaching, I had never preached a half a dozen sermons in my life. And to go even to a small church at the time, and your kind of one-word job description is you're the preacher, well, inherent in that is that you're going to be preaching. And I just did not know. Well, anyway, to make that long story very short, David and Becky Thomas were here. We're here at Hazelwood. And they were looking to go into a different ministry. Strangely, they were looking to go into a traveling ministry, much like I was involved in. Our headquarters now was in a little place called Chesapeake, Ohio, southern Ohio. And I remember very clearly being on the board there as they came to interview to be under our umbrella ministry, not to sing with the Watchmen, but to sing with another ministry. And so we interviewed, and it was all good. And Dave and Becky stayed with us in our mobile home. Our trailer now was not the little one that we had in college. It's a little bit bigger, not much, a little bit bigger. And it was kind of like off the record. Hey, Dave, tell me about this church where you're at in Indiana. Well, it's Hazelwood and whatever. Well, to just kind of cut to it, Dave and I basically traded places. He joined forces with the ministry that I was with at the time. And then I came up here and tried out for the church and met with the elders, and then met with the church, and then was later voted upon, and then came.
Oh,
so
that's neat. That's
yeah.
neat. So when you got to Hazelwood, there's characters everywhere, and I know that there's some really cool characters at Hazelwood. Were there any really funny first impressions that you could share?
Well, yes. There definitely were a lot of those. Some of those, I'll just say, I'll just keep to myself. I keep a lot of things to myself, but I don't usually notice them. Well, anyway, so here we are. Kim's meeting with the ladies. I'm meeting with the elders. And I think Dave Thomas was here too, because this would have been in March. And I later then came in May. So there was about a 45 or maybe a 60-day notice, and then time to come here. It just took a couple of months. So I interviewed, and at our very first interview that I'm meeting with them, I don't know any of these guys. Of course, now I do. And I didn't know their names. They know that I'm Steve. I'm outnumbered 6-1. I've got like 6 names to learn, which I memorized that quick and got them. And they kind of remember I'm Steve. And so we go to, it was the Hen House restaurant that's not been there for, Nickerson Farms, down at the next exit down. And I remember one of the elders walking in, and so we go to this little back room, and the waitress says, "Can I help you?" He said 3 words: "Coffee, black, now." Ooh. I thought, well, you're a take charge kind of no nonsense. I didn't hear any please or thank yous or thank you so much for asking, ma'am, how's your day been? And I'm processing all of that because that's how I am. Not the black coffee now. I'm not that. And that was, and it again, and he didn't in any way, wasn't trying to be forward, wasn't trying to be, this guy take charge. But I never forgot that, because that it was a very misleading first impression. But I thought, man, this guy's not negotiating with anybody. Not negotiating, but I'm talking about the tough crew here. I don't even like coffee. Oh, there was a lot of that stuff, and then just through the years, the funny things you learn about a person. You spend time with them. You go to their home. The things that you just are endeared. I mean, people become so important. And I remember those early years, and I think about it now. I look back over several hundred people when I'm preaching, and I've probably spent time with them in their home, or some in the hospital, or I did their weddings, or maybe the funerals or whatever. And I just have got so many miles with everybody. And I look at this cast of characters, and it just amazes me that I think to myself, only God could pull this off. Only God could, because I look at all of these people, we're just so unique and so weird and so odd, but God is a great God.
It's like it is in the Bible.
It's exactly right, yeah.
So, when you think back over memories of Hazelwood, what are maybe some of your favorite memories that you can bring up a smile when you think of it?
Oh boy, there are just so many. I mentioned in a sermon not too long ago about the time when it was Baby Dedication Sunday. We call it that. And Dimitri Kondis got up to introduce his baby, and he couldn't remember his son's name. It was the funniest thing, just the funniest thing. And I'm looking at Amy, and she's just rolling her eyes. And it was just so funny. I remember the time, and again, I mentioned this in a sermon about a month ago, when we were going to be working on the church building. We're going to do it ourselves. And we were talking about the fascia board and the gutters and the soffit and the roof and all of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of a new world to me. I didn't know what all of that stuff was, but, kind of learn as you go. And one of the guys, to this day, I'm not so sure that he caught it. To this day, he talked about, well, I can fix those esophagus out there. And that was just a scream. And what was so funny is to see all of the guys at that point just bailed out of the room because they were just going to break down. Like this guy he had to cough, and this guy had to go to the bathroom. And like I said, even before cell phones were there, this guy had to answer, because this guy was just so incredibly funny. The funniest things happen. I know of times when I've inadvertently said things that I shouldn't have. And I don't mean betraying a confidence. I can't think of one time I've ever done that. But again, I meant to say air mass, and I got that turned around and said mares, something that should not have been said. And, the funniest things. Or occasionally I'll say something, and I just and I never go over my sermons with Kim unless it's about something that I wouldn't want a female's perspective on, a particular area of modesty or whatever it may be. And sometimes I'll say something, never out of school, and never say something that shouldn't be said about anything like that. But sometimes I'll say something just because I know it's going to get her goat a little bit, just to see her expression. And then I never let on, but I just keep going. I just kind of evaluate how I'm doing at the time. Oh, and one of the things that I do often, and I don't do this every Sunday because I don't want people to think that I don't take it very, very serious what I do, because I take it incredibly serious. Often we'll spend an hour or longer per minute of sermon. If I'm preaching 30 minutes, it's nothing to spend 25 or 30 hours in preparation for that. I'm not saying that to be a hero, but just to say that's often the way it is for me. And sometimes somebody will say, "Hey, Steve, I bet you can't mention zebra in your sermon." Easy, no problem. And they don't give me like a week to think about it. Like it'll be on a card, or I'll be going up and somebody will say, or whatever. And I'm thinking, not a challenge. So I really enjoy doing that from time to time. And again, please don't misunderstand. It's not that it's a game for me. Preaching a sermon is not some little speech that I give. It's what I feel that God has laid in my heart. But I have a little fun with it too. That's
relationships, really. But Keith Parker told us that he gave you a really, really tricky one, and you still did it. I don't know how you did that. I don't even remember what it was.
Did it start up with? Was it on?
Funky was in there.
Yeah.
But
was it something about word up, G money? Was that part of
it?
But had a little more to it.
How could that possibly pertain?
It sure did somehow.
Okay.
I think I got $5 bill on that.
Oh, you did.
I think I did.
For money. That's like a raise.
Perfect. Good call.
So when you're not here, and when you're not preaching, and when you get some free time, you already said you like to run, you love to travel. What are some other things that you do with your free time?
Free time, pastime, I enjoy gardening. I really enjoy gardening. I enjoy work outside. And this will surprise people, but I enjoy manual labor. I get such a small opportunity to do that. If we're out cutting wood, just put a roof on our house, I enjoy that kind of stuff. I'm not the most handy man, but if there's somebody that can show me what to do and how to do it, I will do it all day long.
Like your maestro in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay, did we already talk about your favorite vacation? I think we did, didn't we? So, have you ever had the vacation, I won't even say where it's from, but one that you'd like to send back, or did you ever have a holiday where it was like, can this just be over? Did you ever have anything like that?
You know, Sanille, I remember seeing your question on that. And I just really don't. No, it's not a bad thing. I really don't. No, I'm sure that there were some that were, I don't know, better than others, or probably I stayed at a hotel room that was pretty creepy that I wouldn't have minded, but Kim would have. I'm sure there was some of that kind of stuff, but I don't remember too much of it really.
Turned on your water, like this is mine, just not that this is going to go on, but turned on the water and a roach popped out of the...
Oh, that would be it. That would be on the list. Oh.
So I prepared a lot of questions, which I'm folding now very loudly. I prepared, but there might be something that you would want to share that wasn't a question. Maybe you'd like to take charge.
Well, I can just say, looking back on the 33 years being here, the 38 years of being married, the 40-some marathons that I've done. I'm kind of a long-timer, kind of a long-termer. I just believe that there's value in keeping on. There's value in not being discouraged, though some of that you can't help. But there's value in not quitting. There's value in not giving up. There's value, thank you very much, in pacing yourself. I think that is extremely important. But it's important to realize that if God is for us, who can be against us? And I've just kind of made that a watchword in my life, to rest on some days, to work hard on some days, but to go in the right direction. And one of the great things that I have found here, and I would hope that every pastor recognizes, that, you know, the Steve and Kims, the Keith and Jills, the Gary and Debbie, Terry, and Tammy, Kedge is with us now, and Sweet Brandy. You know, faces are going to come and go. It's the Rita Barkers of this world. The Ed Wilkses of this world that make a difference. It's the preschool teachers. It's the people that are counting the money on Monday mornings. It's the people that I come to church and here's Steve. Somebody's turned on the lights. Somebody's passed out the bulletin. Somebody's got that communion tray ready. I'm a blessed man. And I don't hello, man. I don't have a skewed view of who I am. I know that I'm God's child, absolutely enjoy most of the time what I do, love what I do most of the time, feel capable at what I do most of the time, but I realize that we're all equal. The ground is level. And I understand that a lot of times Steve gets some FaceTime and maybe his name's on the letterhead and maybe the buck stops here to some degree, and I'm okay with that. But I understand that I'm just one of so many, and it'll be true. Those that are first, they will be last. And these that the world kind of has a tendency to maybe kind of look over and skip over and sort of forget about, no, first in line, and I will applaud the whole way. Yeah.
Very good. That's the one body, many parts. You know?
It sure is. It sure is,
you don't even
Sanille.
see. Some part of your body you don't even see.
I know, but you gotta have it.
Yeah.
So
good.
important.
Very good.
Mm.